Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. Gonzo, how is oneself?
I'm all right, thank you very much. Firm and fruity and Christmassy. How about yourself?
Yeah, I was going to say similar. I'm not really
No.
firm. I'm not fruity, and I'm definitely not Christmassy.
We're nothing alike.
Not really. Nothing alike at all. Anyway, welcome to episode 3 of our World Cup series, where we're collaborating with other West Ham channels. And the person next to Gonzo is Nick from Claret and Booze. So what we're going to do in this episode, it's completely different. And I've got 7 years of videos, Gonzo. I think this is like a first. We're essentially handing the reins of the show to somebody else and saying, do what you want with it. We're going to be your guests. So Nick, firstly, how are you? And secondly, over to you.
Yeah, not feeling the pressure at all. Thanks, Geo. But no, I'm all right, actually. I'm not too bad. I sort of dived back from London. I've actually had a few drinks this afternoon. So,
nice.
He's feeling fruity.
I am feeling fruity.
Christmassy as well?
Right. Yeah, very Christmassy.
I love it.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
Not as Christmassy as you, though, with that jumper on.
Thanks for that plug, Nick. That was great. Brilliant. Saves me doing it in 5 minutes' time. Tick that off. Good host so far.
Okay. Well, look, I thought we'll try and turn this into a bit of debate. So I've come with a few topics for us to discuss. Now, these are all things that I think we've all three of us have discussed over the past sort of few weeks anyway. But just sort of diving into a few bits and pieces in a little bit more depth and trying to sort of trigger a bit of debate. So topic number 1, the club sale, which is kind of it's hot off the press at the minute. Now, we know. I've seen your video, Gonzo. You've spoken about the embarrassment clause, which is set to expire around Easter time in 2023. Not very far away. The rumour is that Gold apparently has already relinquished some of his shares. So we've been told. We don't know which direction that's gone in yet. It could be Kretinsky. It could be someone else. I suppose either way, if Kretinsky was looking at buying the club, he would snap up the shares because he's got first dibs. Yep. So we're led to believe. Equally, if he was looking to just buy more shares because there's an imminent sale coming, he would snap them up as well. So we don't really know what direction it's going in. Now, we know that Kretinsky is one of the names in the running. We've also, I actually saw this on your show again, Gonzo. That was the Jim Ratcliffe link as well. So I've looked into him a little bit. I know that with Liverpool and Man United being placed up for sale, that's thrown the cat amongst the pigeons a little bit, but he's still in the running, so we're led to believe. The lesser mentioned third owner that I've been told about, and they've always kind of been linked, is Qatari DR. They're the investment arm of the Qatari state. They're worth a cool 35 billion, and they've already snapped up most of the real estate in and around the London Stadium, so they're already in place. So the question to you both is: do you see the club being sold in its entirety? You know, do you obviously Gold potentially, but do you see Sullivan sort of selling it on? And if it were to be sold, we're never going to know who it is. But out of those three, Kretinsky, Ratcliffe, and Qatari DR, who would be your preference? You know, what if we were to sell it? And I'll ask Geo.
I don't really know. The thing with the Qataris inside of it, I don't know enough about the other two to comment on them. I mean, I don't really know enough about the Qataris either. I know that they own a lot of the land around the stadium and whatnot, and they've invested in that area. But then you start looking at, Newcastle and stuff, and the World Cup and outrage towards them as well. And I almost think it would be bad press to get involved with somebody from there. But I don't know enough about it in order to comment wholeheartedly. But my initial impression, this is the first I've heard of it, I'll be honest with you, Nick. I didn't really know they were being linked to purchasing shares at West Ham. When you said it, I thought, I hope that's not true. That was my initial reaction. And I stand by that now. I'm starting to talk about it out loud as well. I don't really want to see somebody like that come in. I think at the end of the day, money talks. And if they were interested and they offered the most money, I would expect that they would get the shares off David Sullivan and David Gold if they wish to sell, because at the end of the day, why would they not to sell to the highest bidders? David Gold, I'd perhaps be a bit more surprised at, because he is a West Ham fan.
Yep.
Well, I'd expect him to put the club first to some extent over personal wealth, and he can still sell it to somebody else and still make a lot of millions. It's not like he's giving it away for free. If he doesn't sell it to the Qatari, the fund, he could give it to whether it be Ratcliffe or that and still make a load of money. Whereas Sullivan, wouldn't be surprised there's an element of him that thinks, well, you've given me stick for the last so many years. Have this, you can deal with this now. I'm gonna take the highest bidder. I'm gonna bugger off, and it doesn't matter where I go, kind of thing. So my initial thoughts would be not the Qataris, please.
Okay, fair enough. So either Kretinsky or Ratcliffe.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Ratcliffe, or I say Kretinsky, funnily enough. Despite him being here for quite a while, I haven't really developed much more of an emotion towards him, whether I'd like him more involved at West Ham or not. Because when he first arrived, it was a bit exciting, but more that somebody else was coming in and taking shares away from Golden Sullivan. That part was exciting.
Yeah.
Potential money coming in, and obviously him and his partner are very, very wealthy, a successful businessman. But then I think what put me off him a little bit was all our subscribers that are Czech based for whatever reason. It might not be that club that they're interested in, but they had a good knowledge of Kretinsky involved in football, and they came and said, "Whoa, hang on a minute, he's not necessarily a good football owner," and that made me a little bit, "Oh, hang on a minute."
Yeah, that's it.
So that put me off a little bit. But since he's been at West Ham, trying to judge him with what he's done at West Ham, the truth is, guys, I don't really know. I don't know what he's involved in. The 180 million spend up, is it from him? I don't know. We'll find out eventually. But at this current time, it's hard to say, oh, yeah, get Kretinsky because of that 180 million spend up. Is there going to be repercussions because of that spend up? We don't know yet. We'll find out this summer. So I'm hesitant to sort of jump on a Kretinsky bandwagon either way. So I hope it gets sold. I expect gold shares. I expect them to get sold.
Yeah,
but not to be part of this sports washing, and that's going on at the minute.
Okay, Gonzo, yourself, are you kind of aligned with what Geo said there in relation to the if the Qataris were involved, would that kind of leave a bad taste in your mouth a little bit?
Oh yeah, massive. Yeah, lots of almost everything that he said would reflect my thinking on it. Certainly. No, I hate all this. So look, let me get something straight here. I sort of say it's nice for you to bring it up. Nice to talk about something different, actually. And I think football's been overly politicised. I don't like it.
It has been. Yeah.
I don't like it. I switched off, fun enough, a little while ago from even Sky Sports News because I was sick of the lecture. The 10-minute lecture before I actually got down to the sports news. Yeah. Because I don't like the way it's gone. I will assume everybody is kind, is not homophobic, is not racist, and is not sexist. That's my default setting with everybody, unless they were to prove otherwise. So I don't really enjoy the lecture before on everything. So and I see it is prevalent in everything, right? So I don't want that permeating all my sport. That being said, I'm also hopefully like to think I'm a reasonable guy. I also don't like people being bloody murdered and stuff like that, right? So sometimes sport needs to be politicized. And this whole sports washing thing. So we got the Newcastle situation. So here's the premise of sports washing. Somebody that maybe has a poor human rights record buys a sporting institution. Through that sporting institution, they try and convey the image that they're more reasonable than what their public persona might be. The flip side of that, and what Newcastle would say, and what not just Newcastle, anyone would say, well, hold on, we can now influence them. Now they've bought us, we can now show them their error of their ways, which I think is highly arrogant anyway, right? So to think that you can, we're going to change their culture. Like everyone in Saudi Arabia is going to be dancing around drinking Yuki brown ale, running around with a big belly and good luck with that.
I hope they're listening to Sam Fender, otherwise they're missing out.
Well, and here's the interesting thing about this as well, by the way, is so that's the thing, we can get them to change. I think within 2 months of the takeover going through and Amanda Staveley going through, I might have the numbers slightly wrong. I think 89 people were murdered in Saudi Arabia. I think it was something like that. So so good luck with that. So that's worked, isn't it? By the way, you've really shown it. I mean, so basically the whole thing is a farce, right? So and I think it's really important. Is it something like 600 people died in the building of the stadiums in Qatar?
Yeah.
That's horrible.
It's shocking.
It is shocking. It's so sad. It's so incredibly sad. That should be enough to stop anyone doing anything.
And going back to what you said about the lecture that you get, from Sky Sports, telling us, what the moral values that we need to hold. If you go back to sort of the start of the Qatar World Cup, it didn't take much, did it, for them to bin off the armbands? It wasn't much of a protest, really, was it? There's plenty of things they could have done. They could have made a stand. They could have just done it for one game, or they could have rotated that armband if there was a threat of a yellow card. But like I say, wasn't really much. When it came down to it, I think money always wins, doesn't it?
It depends how passionate you are about it. If it was a cause, they truly believed him.
Yeah.
Now I forget the match. I must say, I forget the match. But there was some booing. I don't want to say the league if I get it wrong, but there was some racist booing. There was racist booing in a game, and altogether, all the players basically, I think basically were black players getting picked on by the crowd, and all the players, black and white, said, "We're not having this. We're going. We're stopping the game. We're walking off the pitch." And I believe, as I say, I'm struggling for it. I think the officials said, "Yeah, no, what good?" And everyone was together, and everyone went. Alan Pardew, our own Alan Pardew, was managing Sophia or something, possibly in the goal. Again, I don't want to say. I already have said the name, but Alan Pardew was managing a team. Basically, resigned. I don't know if people know that Alan Pardew resigned because of racist fans, right? Now, really? Is the courage of your convictions. Yeah. There is holding. I don't know why I'm pointing at you two. There is having a belief and seeing it through to its conclusion. They don't know what they're bloody going on about. They don't even know. They can't even say the words. That's why they have rainbow laces. Well, say it. What's a lace got to do with it? A lace is about doing you. Exactly. Say the words, not rainbow laces. What are you saying? What are you doing? Okay, homophobic discrimination. Right, fine. Then let's do it and let's see it and show us it and show the examples and we will deal with that. But this is the difference of what I've said is actually people walking off a pitch because they mean it. Yeah. Alan Pardew being so disgusted with racism that he resigns from his job. That's the difference between the courage of your convictions and a virtue signal. We've got a rainbow armband. If you actually really press these people, they wouldn't understand what the rainbow armband stood for really anyway. You've got to take that off. We really believe, rainbow armband. You've got to take that off. All right, fair enough. When's kickoff? And that's what you're dealing with. I think it's a sham, actually.
Oh no. Well, to be fair, Harry Kane did turn up with a $100,000 rainbow Rolex in the post-match press conference. So that was nice. That was nice.
It's nice. Exactly. Do you know what? Nothing says I support a cause.
I think Nick on your list. On your list there, Nick, I would put Gonzo down as a no for the Qatari. As a no,
one. Yeah, okay. So no to the. I think all it is, right? It's not. Look, none of us have got anything against the Qataris. It's just kind of what it means, and what it means to football. And I think, and possibly, like you say, for the reason that these organisations are buying football clubs, I don't necessarily think it is to make money. I think they're buying it to sort of cleanse their image.
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So what you're doing is you're damaging the image of the football club, aren't you?
I think it draws more attention. I don't mind admitting I'm quite naive when it comes to these things. So when Qatar got the World Cup, I'd never really heard of Qatar until the World Cup was assigned to Qatar. And then I've learned about their culture and what happens in the country. And funnily enough, if you asked me before the FIFA bidding, I would have been able to tell you a thing about Qatar. I know more about Saudi Arabia now today than I did before they purchased Newcastle United. So actually what it's actually done for me personally is quite ironic, which is the exact thing they didn't want to do. It's brought attention to what they do. But that's just, I'm only speaking from a personal position here, but like I said, I don't mind admitting I'm very naive when it comes to these things, and it's actually been almost like an education tool for me when these things happen and the media spotlight gets put on them. Then I sit and learn and stuff like that. So it's the opposite effects happen to me actually.
I suppose that is a benefit though, because it is kind of exposing. It exposes everything to the world, doesn't it? We all keep our eyes closed to these situations, really, don't we? I think if it's not on your doorstep, you tend to sort of not really take much notice. But I don't know. So who would you rather have though? Could the Qatari DR or Pi Capital? Was it Pi Capital? PA?
Yeah, it was. I think it probably would be. I don't think Kretinsky's going to take over. I think he is in it for the money. I don't think you'll ever see Kretinsky.
So you don't think he's going to be the ultimate owner?
No, I
of the club?
really don't. I really don't. If I had any money, I'd place it down on
Do
that.
you think it'll be associates of his then?
No, no.
So you just think it'll be someone completely different that?
I do. I think he's seen a niche. I think he's seen a gap. I think he's seen an increase in the value, a potential increase in value of the club. He's bought shares to sell them on. It's the only thing that. The only variable is how many of those shares he buys. But, it doesn't matter if he's bought 20% to make a profit or 40% to make a profit. I don't think we're dealing with someone who has an overall desire to own West Ham or possibly even any football club, really. He's just, I would imagine he views West Ham like Foot Locker or like the Royal Mail or like Sainsbury's. I wouldn't. Yeah. I really wouldn't think so. Ratcliffe, I think, is a different kettle of fish because he's absolutely minted. He's made his money and he's at time of life where looking at some of his comments, I think he wants a toy now. He wants to enjoy himself. And that's slightly different. And for the same reason, I think with David Gold, I think David Gold should absolutely do what David Gold wants. And if I was David Gold, I'd sell me shares, but he's at a time of life where, let's be fair, David Gold's not going to be around for another 30 years. If I was David Gold, I'd say, look, there's my shares. Can you make me sort of honorary president so I can just keep coming to games and have my seat and all the rest of it? If I was David Gold, that's what I'd do. I'd take all the hassle out of it. I'd be in my helicopter. I'd go to West Ham and the rest of the time I'd be enjoying he's got a lovely house with lovely gardens. If I was that wealthy, I'd be doing that. You don't need the hassle of it.
You'd still want some involvement in West Ham, wouldn't you? Whereas, so Geo, you think it's the other way around for Sullivan? You can see him selling up completely and
gone. For the reasons Gonzo just said about Ratcliffe, Gold's... He's done it all. He's been there, done it. He's now living a dream, which is co-chairman of West Ham United. Why would he not want to remain as shareholder of West Ham United? It sounds wild saying this, but what does he benefit from selling his shares in West Ham? He's got money in the bank. He's got millions in the bank. He doesn't need more money. That's not what he needs.
No. He doesn't spend it either, apparently.
Really?
Well, Sullivan, no. I think we've seen the thing where he walks past the swimming pool. So I haven't even been in it. I think he sits and his office could be in the mansion that it's in or in a porter cabin. I think Sullivan is addicted to the deal. I don't. Listen, I'm not saying he's not got a nice car and stuff like that, but I don't think he's not. He hasn't got to have the latest yacht and the latest this, that, and the other. I think he leads a nice life, but I remember ages ago. I don't know if you remember this story, but I can't even remember which boy it was. Either Jack or David, one of the boys, and they'd been to some posh donut shop in London. They bought 3 donuts for 15 quid. Do you remember, Gio?
Yeah.
And they went back, and they said, "Oh, here, Dad, do you want a donut?" Oh yeah, that's nice. And he said, "Where'd you get them from?" And they said, "How much that? 15 quid." And he had a go at them. 15 quid for donuts. 15 quid for donuts. I don't get them again. And all that.
I make him right, to be fair. I make him right.
He is right. And it's nice to know you don't lose it. Even it's nice when I'm a billionaire. I would like to be the same about the donuts. Actually, I wouldn't. I have loads of them.
I want to taste that donut, by the way.
I know.
£5 a donut, it must be good, right?
I know. How nice can a donut be, though? That's the thing.
Oh, very unbelievable nice. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on, Nick. You can tell like a donut around here.
You were doing well with the questions.
I'm the same. Right, okay. Well, let's bin that one. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm with you guys. Look, if the Qataris came in and bought the club, we'd have to accept it and we'd have to get on board with it. It is what it is. You haven't got to like it, but hopefully the byproduct of that would be success. But look, we can get success in other ways as well, can't we? So we shall see. We shall see what happens. But anyway, look, topic number 2. This is another something that we've all spoken about, and that's the Paqueta and Scamacca transfer interest. Do you believe the rumours? And would you be surprised to see us sell both at a loss come the summer, not January? So come the summer. So if things weren't to improve, could you see it happening? And why are the bids coming in? Why is that happening? Is that kind of due to a I don't know, because I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised to see clubs bidding for these players, really, with our previous history.
Well, exactly.
That's the thing. We buy players in at a high value, we sell them on. So why wouldn't you monitor the situation at West Ham whenever they buy a decent player?
Absolutely, you get a reputation. My hobby's pinball machines, and they change hands. There's a couple of people. It's a very small community. There's a couple of people a couple of people in this community who've got a reputation for buying a pinball machine, getting fed up with it pretty quickly and selling it at a loss. And I know people that look at them and they literally, because there's like forums and that, you can put like the bell on. So anytime they post, I know people that follow them and put a notification on just in case. They go, I've had enough of this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pinball machine, because they know they're basically sniffing a deal. So why would football be any different? I don't think they'd both go. I'm not sure the Juventus one is true. Do I think that there are Italian clubs who would like Scamacca back? Yeah. Would they be sniffing around and think? And if they did it, having seen what's happened with us with Vlasic or Haller or whoever else, what other example? Why would you not say, oh, the old Scamacca, he looks a little bit unhappy, he wants to come home? You know what? We'll give you 25 million, take the problem off your hands, and we instantly lose 10 million. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Scamacca, he looks like the kind of guy that when I think that Scamacca decides he's going to go, I think you let him go. He does.
Scamacca also clearly trusts Mancini. Scamacca's always referred into advice from Mancini, and eventually the advice from Mancini will be go back to Italy. And I thought this as soon as we signed him. Gonzo Charlie, I said Scamacca will go eventually back to an Italian club. It's just what they do. They keep the money in the country. They keep the players in the leagues, and the Italian number 9's got to be playing in Italy.
They're quite proud in that respect, aren't they?
I think Scamacca will go back to Italy eventually, regardless of form at West Ham. He could be crap. He'll go back just a bit cheaper. He can come over here and smash it. He'll still go back to Italy. That's how I feel. I feel it's inevitable that he goes back to Italy at some point. It's just a case of when and how much. As far as I'm, and obviously who too, but I'm not really bothered where he goes. As for Paqueta, again, though, we could have this exact discussion if they were playing well. Well, why wouldn't a top European club look at Paqueta if he was doing well West Ham? Why wouldn't they think, oh, we can get him? West Ham are lingering in the bottom. They're not going to get European football. That's gone now. We can swoop in and pick him up. So why wouldn't these clubs be looking at Paqueta, Scamacca, and other top players at clubs like West Ham? I don't believe the Paqueta one. I'm sort of believing the Scamacca to Napoli one because it just makes sense to me. Yeah, it just makes sense.
It's a logical link, isn't it? Really,
it does, because you want to get more out of Raspadori, you want to reunite them and stuff. Why would you not do it? Just like if West Ham got linked to Raspadori, would I believe it? Not really, but it would the rumor would make the journalist would have been coming up with almost like a legit rumor to some extent. I think, well, fair play, you've thought this one through. It's better than some of the other ones I see. But there's actually something there. So I'm not worried about the summer yet, Nick, because I think there's far too much that's going to happen between now and then that's going to change everything. At the minute, could I see Paqueta leaving? Yeah, I could. But how can you not when we're 16th in the league and he's not really settled in? But between now and then, you could find his feet in the Premier League. You could start racking up assists and goals, pick up at least Hammer of the Month and stuff like that, become a fan's favourite. And that type of player, if they do perform, will become a fan's favourite very, very quickly. He will feel it. He will feel that adoration. And we've all heard interviews with ex-West Ham players when they speak about when the West Ham fans love you, you know about it, and it's the best feeling in the world and stuff. Paqueta can easily have that come May. And then if you ask me the question, can you see him leaving? My answer would be no. Why would he? He's well paid. He's in the most globalized league in the world. He's in Brazil's centre midfield while playing for West Ham, so he doesn't need to move to get into that Brazilian team. He's already in it. He's already in that starting 11. The only way he would move is if he wants to go win trophies. He's not going to get paid more elsewhere unless he goes to a top English club, which is unlikely. So I'm not worried at all. When I see these rumours, they don't bother me in the slightest.
No, I think this World Cup will do wonders for West Ham fans that were confused by Paqueta as well, because most West Ham fans, I don't think they knew really what we were signing. I think we thought that we were signing like a Lingard type player that's going to pick the ball up, drive at the defence. He's not that type of player, and I think with the way that we're seeing Brazil use him, we can see what he's about now. But obviously, all that's going to do is pile the pressure on Moyes now to change his system when he
absolutely
comes back.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
And that sort of rolls into the next one. Players for clubs versus players for West Ham versus players for their country. There's a bit of a disconnect. There's with the way that David Moyes uses players, and you could even look at Declan Rice as well. I know that doesn't really affect his performances for us because he's always brilliant. But when you look at the way that he's used for England, and you look at the way that Paqueta is used for Brazil, you look at the way that Downs is used for us versus the player that we bought, which is a central defensive midfielder. You look at the way that Fornals is used out on the left. He's not a left winger, you know. That's not his best position. Why does he persist? Why does Moyes? I'll ask you, Gonzo. Why does Moyes persist with playing players out of position? Because it can't just be to accommodate the elephant in the room, which is Souček. It can't just be for that reason, surely.
Oh, it's too much, and this goes on too long. You'd have more joy finding a player. It's actually harder to find a player that he hasn't tweaked their position.
Yeah.
Actually, in the first team, you can actually start, if you go through it, you can really start to make a case. And the great irony is I think one of the players he should have really tweaked the position on occasion.
Yeah.
Is Jared Bowen, which I think sometimes just stick him on the left so he can put a crossover. You know what I mean? With his left foot. I won't do that one, but do all the ones you shouldn't do. And they don't all fail. They really don't all fail. You know, Cresswell at centre back, he's had some fine performances there. And now we discussed this on the when we were chatting online the other day. Arnautovic moving into from more wide to the centre. That was a good one. I think what he's done with Antonio by and large has been good. But it's almost become a cliche. He's almost become like a caricature of himself, Moyes, where he's almost doing it with everybody now. The Downs one should be the least frustrating, I guess, because of what we pay for him. But I still find it frustrating because I think it's so evident what player he is. And the thing is, this is like you mentioned, Declan. Declan can handle it because he has such a good attitude and he's a fine footballer.
Yeah.
Well, Downs can also handle it for the same reasons. So actually, he'll do all right if you play him in number 10. Would he look like a number 10? No, but he's not going to put in a 3 out of 10 performance. Same when he played, whatever it was, the Man United game, when he played sort of right of the midfield. He's not going to put in a 3 out of 10 performance because he's got the right attitude and he has an awareness. Or even he's not going to run down the wing if he doesn't think he can beat a guy. He'll turn his back and he'll retain possession. You think, oh, well done, mate. That sort of thing. But it's quite evident he's a central midfield player, but that's okay. But you've got to say to look at Scamacca and to play him up front on his own as isolated as he does, bearing in mind the whole Raspadori thing. And you're right, I'm very ignorant of these things. We buy a player, then I research, and then I look if it's going badly. So, now I know who Raspadori is. Oh, now I get it. Oh, and now he's gone to Napoli. And then when I watched Italy when we played England, Raspadori starts with Scamacca in that game. You think, okay, now I get it. Now I have some knowledge. And then it comes to you think, well, why did we buy him and ask him to do that? That's not what he does. So is he technically still playing as a centre forward? Yes, but it's a very, very different version of centre forward that he's used to playing. And the Paqueta one, well, I mean, without boring everyone senseless on it, it's quite clear. And I looked at it and thought, oh my words, no, he is playing left centre midfield. Yes, don't get me wrong, Casemiro sits further back, but he is playing left centre midfield. Well,
I know.
Well, why spend 50 million pounds is the finished article, right? That's not, and I actually think it's a bit arrogant, actually, of David Moyes to think, I'd think it's liberty if I was a 50 million pound Brazilian international. And you've got to remember, this is someone who is so highly coveted that the Brazilian manager is saying, you're my number one guy. There's, he's getting Neymar to do the cross hammers, and they're all, the world's best footballers are saying you're really good, and then he comes over to West Ham, and David Moyes is tweaking his position. It sort of goes back to the whole Rio Ferdinand thing, and which I don't want to. It's an easy one to beat David Moyes with. The whole Rio Ferdinand thing. If David Moyes coming in saying, you don't defend quite how I like you to defend, I'm going to show you some videos of Phil Jagielka. This is the way. And you just sort of wonder, just
the thing is, like you said, he does tweak positions, but a lot of the players that you've mentioned, Arnautovic, Antonio, Cresswell, he kind of got him firing again when he came in. They're existing players. Why would you go out and buy players to change them?
Absolutely
Why
right.
wouldn't you just buy the players that you want that will fit in your system? I mean, does that confuse you, Geo, with the way he does that?
A little bit. I mean, I guess he's maybe saw something in Paqueta at Lyon and thought, oh yeah, I can make him into a number 10. I think there's an aspect of Moyes has got the way that he wants to play, and it goes back to probably the Jesse Lingard way when we had that 4-2-3-1 with Lingard in the middle, and it worked really well. He probably thought, oh, Paqueta can do what Lingard did, so I'll just get him and stick him in there. And it's dysfunctional. The recruitment process to the management team feels a little bit two different departments, which is fine. It should be two different departments, but there's also got to be correlation where they're on the same wavelength and the same tangent, you know. And I'll always go back to Sadio Mane at Liverpool when Jurgen Klopp needed a left winger, and they were sort of, I need this, bang. Okay, here's your man, Sadio Mane, and he goes, done. He's exactly what Klopp wanted. Yeah. And you almost get the thing with Paqueta. It's not really what Moyes wanted. It was probably what someone wanted. Who someone is, I don't really know, but I don't think it was David Moyes. But then Moyes has thrown him in the deep end immediately, which I don't think he would have done if he didn't really want to. Like Flynn Downs. Flynn Downs had to be patient. Saeed Benrahma had to be really patient. And it's quite public that Benrahma wasn't Moyes' choice. So on one hand, the evidence would suggest that Paqueta is Moyes' choice. But on the other hand, the way that we're playing and stuff would suggest it's not. It's definitely been a bit of a strange one. But at the same time, I'm hoping, naively, that's going to change.
Yeah.
In the new year. Do I expect it to? That's a different story. But I'm hopeful that we can sort something out. Because it's an easy player to work with. It's not like you're trying to get Flynn Downs to work as a defensive midfielder in Premier League. You're asking him to step up and do this, that, and the other. You're asking Brazil's centre midfielder to play centre midfield. It's not a difficult thing to get right, really.
I know. Out of all the players that he signed, how many of them do you think now? I know there's been temporary spikes in value, but how many players that he's signed since he's been with us do you think are worth more than what he paid for him? Do you think Souček is worth more now than what we paid for him?
Yeah.
You think he is? And potentially,
because we paid about 20,
Bowen?
didn't we? So we paid about 20 million. Bowen, I would say, is worth more.
Apart from that, though, I mean, certainly the ones this summer. Cornet, do you think we'll get our money back on him?
Sorry,
Gonzo.
Who's this?
I know. But this.
Can you? By the way, Nick, did you find him?
I didn't. No.
He's in there.
He is in there. I didn't see him.
I will have a look. Have a look. But yeah, he's a weird one. And then the 18 million on Emerson, who we kind of reluctantly. I mean, I was a bit perplexed by that signing anyway, to be honest. But I mean, look, when you look at the window now, it doesn't seem like it was. I was very excited at the time, seeing Scamacca come in, seeing Paqueta come in, seeing all these players flying through the door. But looking at it now, you're thinking, did much thought actually go into it?
Well, the ambition's isn't it?
Yeah.
Spent 180 million. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And you start looking at it. But you know, who is ultimately to blame for that? And I mean, the trouble is we're not a great club for that, because there's always going to be a blame game going on, and you will see that with the board anyway. Because they were very quick to blame Pellegrini and Husos when it didn't suit them, and now you will see the blame being put on to
100%.
Being put on to Moyes and Newman, and so
because I can't see. Do you think that David Moyes wanted and signed Paqueta? My personal thought is no way. I can't see David Moyes going out and signing Paqueta.
I do.
Oh, really?
I do. Because I know that Sullivan didn't sign him.
Right.
I know Sullivan didn't sign him. And Newman has not got the authority for that kind of stuff. He just doesn't.
The other piece of evidence, Stuart Pearce has spoke about it since leaving West Ham, and Stuart Pearce says we identified him after the Lyon games as somebody that.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
but
Stuart Pearce is.
Well, I know. I'd literally spoken to Barry Silkman. You know, I know full well that they were struggling. Moyes and I mean, Barry would say this, to be fair.
Yeah.
But he said he's got enough right with me, if you know what I mean. They were struggling to get the deal over the line, and in the end, Sullivan actually said, "You need to get over there and get this deal over the line." So Silky was parachuted in at the last bit, and then basically schmoozed, because that's what he does. He schmoozed him and buttered him up and told him lovely things, and talked about Dimitri Payet, and that's basically what happened there. So yeah, this was definitely a Moyes and Newman deal, and Moyes is definitely the boss in that dynamic.
The other two differences between Scamacca and Paqueta, the big money ones, is more because of Scamacca's side of things. We were given, during him flying over in the medical and that, we were given footage, which is quite rare from the player side. And Rob Newman's there. Rob Newman's in Italy with him to get him on the plane and take him over. That wasn't, to my knowledge, a thing with Paqueta. There was no Paqueta Newman, but there was a Scamacca Newman.
Yeah.
He's got a gun in the back of his head. Get on a plane.
Come on.
Bloody hell. Well, that was one of. I mean, I don't have many defenses of David Moyes, but in my head, I was kind of convincing myself that maybe he didn't sign these players. That was the only kind of defense that I could give him. And now that's gone as well.
Sorry,
because I'm not. He's not my favourite person. Gonzo, he's not.
No,
so look, let's move on to David Moyes anyway. Let's move on to David Moyes. Very sort of quick fire questions initially. So, Geo, can you see him being here for the restart? Do you think he's going to be here for Arsenal?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. You think so as well, Gonzo?
Yeah.
He will be. So there's no chance. They're not looking at the moment. Somebody,
Well, I don't say I'm not looking at the moment, but your question, Arsenal, he's here. He manages West Ham against Arsenal.
Okay. He's here against Arsenal. Do you think, because obviously the rumour is that he's got 3 games to save himself. We all love that, don't we? Gonzo, do you think he's going to get enough from the 3 games?
Yeah, I think he'll get 4. I think he'll get 4 points.
You think he will?
I suspect he will. I'm not. This is not like, so I'm not betting heavily on this. This is not saying anything. I am got so much doubt in my mind. I suspect, I've just got a feeling he might, if he doesn't, if we see exactly the same from him and we lose, and exactly the same tactics, and he hasn't sorted out central midfield, I mean, well, not only we've got problems, he's got bloody problems as well, because he will go at that point. But I have to have hope, and I have to suspect that he will have assessed what's gone wrong and he'll change it. And I think if he does change it, we have a good enough team to get 4 points.
Is it just points that he needs, or are we going to be looking for more than points? Do you think
we need? He only needs points. We want more, us three, because he only needs points.
But my argument is, we did the show a few months ago, Geo, after the pretty much after the Everton game, and at that point, we were more or less in the bottom 3. And I said at that point, look, I'm not saying that he won't win any more games. He can do. He will beat lesser teams on occasion, so it could happen. We could pick up some points. But I said in that video, it will only be a bit of a dead cat bounce. We will end up back having this conversation, and 2 months later, we're back having that same conversation. He did get a few wins after that period. He got some points, but we went up. We came back down again. I do think he's in a death spiral. Personally, I think it's a matter of time. I don't think it's a case of if. I think it's a case of when. So, what do you think? All they care about is just getting through to the summer and retaining Premier League status, and they would rather do that with David Moyes. Do you think that's the case, Gio?
Yeah, we've just spoke about the club being sold.
Yeah,
that feeds into this. They need to be a Premier League club, and at the minute they're hanging their coat on David Moyes being the man that's going to keep us in the Premier League. And I agree with Gonzo. I say all as if it's easy. All he has to do is get points. It doesn't matter how we do it. We could have 1 shot against Brentford and they could have 20. But if we win 1-0, the board will be happy. They won't care. They don't care about statistics. They don't care about style of football. All they care about is staying in the Premier League. And that's why David Moyes is still here. If the board wanted more than just results, he'd be gone. As soon as that Leicester game finished,
it'd have been gone.
Moyes, come here, away you go, because the results are crap, but also your football's rubbish. What's happening with Paqueta? What's happening with Scamacca? It's not, this is too much. There's too much problems. Away you go, shoo. But it's not. They're looking at it going, well, despite being this poor, we're not in the bottom 3 yet. So, they're probably looking at the league table only. They're probably also looking at the amount of money they'd have to give David Moyes and his management team. I thought, that's quite a chunky bit of money, isn't it? I don't really fancy paying that out. Gonzo's right. It's all about points for them. We as a fan base, we want more. We won't be happy with a scrappy 1-0 win and stuff. And to answer your other question, will he get enough? I think it's yes and no. I don't think he'll get 4. I think he might get 3, but that just restarts the 3-game thing, which is like
that's not enough, though, is it?
No, but it's not enough to keep his job. But is it enough to sack? Is it little to sack him? If that makes sense, I don't think it will be. I think he will retain his job beyond that, just with 3 points.
So if he was to lose, because for me, if he loses against Arsenal and then we lose against
Nick, that game don't matter.
No. But what I mean is, if we lose against Arsenal and then we lose against Brentford at home, at which point, I'm not being funny, I think we could start to see the crowd turn quite ugly inside the stadium. I think we could do.
The order is important, by the way. Yeah. In that, I would sort of agree with Geo on that, but it would have to go Arsenal for the 3 points out of 3 games. It would have to go Arsenal 0 points, Brentford 3 points, then Leeds 0 points. I think if it goes Arsenal 0 points, Brentford 0 points, I think he possibly doesn't get to Leeds.
I think that's it, because why would you give him Leeds if he loses at home to Brentford? Why would you then give him?
I can't. But I'm just to be clear. I'm not defending Moyes here. I would have liked him to have departed by now. But I don't understand why the board would do nothing for this 6 weeks. Then after a loss at home to Brentford,
it'll make him look ridiculous.
After that one game, go, actually, we've had enough now, Dave. Piss off! Like, that's really the breaking point. Yeah. That would mean right now they're teetering on the brink of sacking him, and for 6 weeks they've just pissed up this massive opportunity of sacking him, getting someone in, giving a new manager essentially a pre-season plan for the transfer window, everything a new manager needs, and they could have had. They've just given it all up just for Brentford at home. And I am not convinced. I think we could lose those, and I think Moyes will still be here for the Leeds game. I am not convinced we would sack him. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't think I just can't convince myself that after a loss to Brentford, and I know I'm ignoring the Arsenal one, but like I said, I just don't think you can really.
I wouldn't expect us to win that, even if we were full pedal. They're flying. They're beating most teams. I think what I would like to see in the Arsenal game, because for me it's a free hit, he could try something different in that game. He could, at least we could maybe get an insight into what David Moyes has been working on for the last 6 weeks.
Probably. I think I know already, but it might be strangely familiar.
Oh God. Well, there you go. So he's learnt nothing. It is frustrating. It really is, because and you are right, because if all they've done is they've gambled, and they've gambled on him being able to do after the break what he couldn't do before the break. In those 3 games that we had before.
It's not just before the break. It goes back beyond that, because we're playing the same way we have done in 2 years in which we're qualified for European football. So,
and that's the thing. But then it would be pathetic, and then it's inexcusable that they've held on to him, because I don't think we're very likely to beat. And on the way that we've been playing, especially because it's going to be even more difficult with the crowd being tetchy. So if we lose against Arsenal, it's not going to take much for the crowd to turn in that Brentford game. If we come out slow, we feel our way in, Brentford are on top, heaven forbid they score, they've won the game at that point, because the crowd will go. The crowd will turn. It will be ugly. That's my opinion. That's kind of what I think will happen. And then you've got to look at it. How much more time do you give him? Because you could potentially be looking at, we're on 15 games at the moment. After those 3 games, you're on 18 games. If you've got 14 points, when Pellegrini went, we was, 19 points from 19 games, or 18 points from 19 games. This is a worse situation. And what type of manager then do you go out and try and attract? Because surely even potential managers will be looking at the situation. If you're going to Poch, for instance, right? Let's just say you're going to Pochettino. At that point, 9 points worse off. Do you fancy coming to West Ham? Well, not at the moment, but probably if you'd have asked me 2 months ago, maybe. So, do you know what I mean? At that point, they're kind of reducing. I think I'm not saying that Pochettino or Tuchel would turn a job down, but surely it's less attractive to them at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I know what you're saying. You're shrinking the pool of managers that would be willing to come to West Ham. I don't think you shrink it drastically. I think you might lose 1% of managers, which is the elite ones, which is what you're referring to. The ones that would possibly be difficult to attract anyway. I think it goes from a maybe to a definitely not. But I think the majority of the managers would still be interested, but also more importantly, and perhaps worse for you, Nick, I think the managers the board would go after would still be interested, regardless of whether it's today or in next month when we've lost against Brentford. I think they would still be interested because the board have got fallen for out of work managers for a start. And I know Pochettino falls into that, but I would be shocked. I know a lot of people think it'll be Mark Warburton that gets promoted. I'm hesitant to join that sort of train of thought just yet. I can see why they're coming up with that, by the way. It makes sense. You know, you've got a manager there in your coaching staff. Why wouldn't you? A caretaker manager, I could see Warburton getting the job whilst the search goes on. But I just struggle to get away from Sean Dyche. I really do. It's just, you know, when you think about what the board would want as a manager, everything just leads back to Sean Dyche for me. And Dyche himself has been flirting.
Do you know what my worry is? My worry is now with the profile of players that we've got, with your Paquetas, with your Scamacca, with Declan Rice now, whose ego's growing month by month. You know, he's getting bigger. Rightly so. He's a great player, but he's a big time player now. I think we're going to need inspiring, because that's going to be the halfway point in the season. We're going to have to go out and do far better than we've done in the first part of the season to survive. You know, because like I say, in that season when Moyes took over, Pellegrini got 19 points from 19 games. Moyes, who miraculously saved us, only managed 20 points in the next 19. So it wasn't exactly a miraculous saviour. There's no saying that Pellegrini couldn't have done that with the second half of the season. And Pellegrini's not doing too bad now, is he? At the moment.
I'm saying nothing. I've said this too many times over the years, and I get criticism for it. I'm going to keep you tuned on this one, Nick, and I'll let the pitchforks get stuck up your derriere if you don't mind.
I know, but the thing is as well, I think with Pellegrini, I think one of the major issues with Pellegrini when he came in, when he came in that season that failed was Roberto. It was a goalkeeper, wasn't it?
Gonzo, get the spade, get the shovel off him. Am
I going to get battered? Am I going to get battered for it?
I think we're quite far into the video. If they made it this far, they're clearly enjoying it. But so you might be safe.
I think. To be fair, I think some of the comments say, "You want to get this fella back? Oh, we like him hosting."
I once did a video about a year ago saying I was wrong about Moyes. I'm surprised how well he's done. And at the very start, for the intro, I gave context because there's obviously new subscribers and stuff. So I tried to give the context, which was when Moyes was first here, I didn't want him kept on. I was glad he left. I was okay with the Pellegrini appointment. I think Pellegrini would have kept this up, but he got sacked anyway. Moyes came in. I thought Moyes did an okay job. I don't think he did fantastic. The squad of players was good. So that was about a minute and a half. Then I did a 15-minute part about David Moyes. And the amount of comments was like, can't believe you think Pellegrini was going to keep us up. Hang on a minute, that's not even the point of the video. But that was providing the context. And people had a problem with the context rather than the actual opinion part of it. So Pellegrini has become a bit of a taboo word for me on this channel.
But with everything that people were criticising the team for at that time under Pellegrini, the team weren't performing, they weren't trying, they weren't running, they weren't doing this. If you look at the running stats and everything now, they're very similar. They're almost perfectly aligned to that period. And so what that means is that we've kind of got an under-inspired team. They're not performing to capacity. They're clearly not. And I just worry that we're a different beast now. I don't think that maybe a Sean Dyche could come in and wow Scamacca and wow Paqueta and get them firing. I think you almost need an injection of something else to come into the club. If you are in that situation, if your half a season's gone, if you're at 18 games and 14 points and you've got 2 6-pointers coming up, or is it 3? Because after that, you got Wolves, Everton, after the Leeds game.
Yeah, we've got Wolves and Everton. Then I think Chelsea's not far around the corner.
Yeah, so there's a couple of big games there. Everton and Wolves are massive. You've got to win them if you're in that situation.
And we've got Brentford in the FA Cup. Now, I know that doesn't equate to points, but it's still a game you could lose, which knocks morale down further.
Yeah, but that's my worry. With I think the profile of manager that they bring in. See, I would rather them do a temporary high-profile manager for 6 months. You know, like what Chelsea did with Benitez. Not Benitez. I don't want Benitez. Yeah, if they got someone like Tuchel in, or you know, or even Pochettino for 6 months, somebody that could come in and maybe sort of inspire the big players that we've got that would need inspiring. Because I don't think Sean Dyche would do that. You know,
no, but I and I don't want Sean Dyche, by the way, but you mentioned about the running stats. He would get us running. And that was like, if you remember when Moyes came in, he got us running again. And Moyes' problem is he's not been able to sustain that.
As much as you laugh, he'll give Skamaka a partner.
Oh, he will play two up front.
Oh, he'll play two up top.
He'll play two up front, and we will be, the team will work their asses off. But I think so. It's you're lucky if you get both. But I think you're talking about more ideas and creativity and actually getting them feeling good about themselves and playing cohesively. And you know, there's managers there for that as well. Ideally, you sort of want both, don't you? But you certainly get the impression. What do we know? We're not on the training pitch. You do get the impression that it's gone a bit stale there in terms of ideas and in terms of training, in terms of a lot of that sort of stuff. And there's been a lot of leaders who have been lost. A terrible thing for situation for Mark Noble to walk into. It's almost walking into an inferno, isn't he? Really,
baptism by fire.
Yeah, 100%.
It certainly is. Okay, well, let's say that happens. Right, 3 games goes. Moyes is gone. I'd rather it happen before. I'd rather him be replaced before the Arsenal game, even though we've just wasted God knows how many weeks. It isn't going to happen. But 3 games are gone. 9 points are gone. You know, we're at 18 games. We've got 14 points. Your top 3, Gonzo, of managers. So if you could draw up a short list for the board to approach, who would your top 3 be of replacement managers?
Well, I've only got 2, if you don't mind. But I don't pretend to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the world game, European game, or even the English game. Quite frankly, my number 1 choice would be Vincent Kompany, because I think that's
an interesting one.
I think he's got so much personality, and that feeds into what you were saying. So I do think there's one way of doing it.
He's got the profile. He's got the profile that maybe would be able to relate to these players.
100%. They'd all know who he is.
Yeah,
everyone would know who he is. I think he's got incredible determination and will to win. As you cannot watch a Vincent Kompany interview and not be impressed with him. He's intelligent. He's got that balance of being authoritative but pleasant.
Yeah,
tough one to be authoritative but not intimidating and pleasant. I think that's a hard one to
I imagine
off.
He can be intimidating when he wants to be as well.
I'm sure you're right.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're right.
And he's got Craig Bellamy as assistant manager.
Oh Jesus Christ! He's got the hatchet man next to him.
You've got the angry man next to him. Vincent Kompany can be good cop. You've got the guy with no neck next to him.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's that. I think the way he served his apprenticeship at Anderlecht, and then obviously at Burnley. Now, I think we'd get an instant lift. I think he understands the league, and I think he understands modern football. I think all the stuff. I think he'd take one look at someone like Paqueta and say, I recognise you, because I played alongside lots of
players
your ilk.
Just like you. Yeah,
absolutely. So this is what we'll do with you. There you go. I know what you are, and I think there'll be other players in the squad as well that he would do that to. I think he'd get us. I just think he'd get us organised, and I think he'd get us motivated.
It'd be an exciting appointment. It would be.
It would. And I think that's enough, by the way. Organised and motivated. Organised and motivated. That'll do us. We've got a good enough team. That'd be fine. I think players look forward to coming to training and all the rest of it. You can absolutely understand it. And I think he's got bundles of personality, which I think is really important when so much of it has been missed. Okay, we don't have the captain there. Okay, we've missed David Martin from the dressing room and Ryan Fredericks. But if you use a big personality, a lot of character, he'll fill the void on that. And the other one is Geo's one, which is Ange Postecoglou. If I said that, well, definitely got that.
You
wrong,
got it right. You got it bang on. The Celtic manager.
Yeah. And everything you hear about him about making players better. Funny enough, he keeps players in their positions and makes them better. There's a thing for you. Again, that would probably do it in terms of us staying up. I like the way he speaks as well. Again, I've been alerted to this guy because of Geo, but I
don't know too much about him. I've got to be honest. I've seen a few of their games, and they do play nice football. They play good football. No, that's good. Geo, yourself, top 2.
I don't like saying it. I find it disrespectful to Moyes, but Gonzo's just exposed me there, isn't he?
Sorry, I forgot you. Sorry, I forgot he doesn't say it.
So there you go. There's my number one choice.
Yeah. So he would be your number one. So
Yeah.
Postecoglou would be your number one.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I love him. I think if you don't know who he is, I wouldn't say go watch Celtic play because they're going to look good in the Scottish Premiership. But their ethos in the Champions League games, they played Real Madrid in the Champions League group stages. They're the pop. I know Gonzo asked me what was the score. I think they got beat 3-0 at Parkhead. But for the first hour, Celtic, they hit the post at 0-0. They hit the post and a real go at Real Madrid. Yeah. And I was just blown away by it. But just, if you are going to Google anything about him, just listen to his interviews.
They played a big team and had a go, you mean?
Yes, no white flag stuff, but also it's the way he speaks. It's the way he speaks about fans and football, and to some extent, it's quite contrasting to what David Moyes says a little bit. And Gonzo often says about how David Moyes always gets you downbeat for a game to some extent. There's no riling up the fan base for that. Yeah. Whereas Ange does that. He allows the fans to get excited. Before the Real Madrid game, they said to him, fans basically smashed Rangers, and then they were playing Real Madrid. Still, the fans have obviously been thoroughly impressed by beating Rangers. They're getting a bit ahead of themselves, thinking they can beat Real Madrid. You need to contain that. He said, no. He said, let them. He said, let them live in hope. Let them dream of beating Real Madrid. He says, my job is to contain it in the changing room. He said, but the fan base, he says, they work hard Monday to Friday for their money to come see the football.
Oh,
he
how
says,
refreshing.
He basically said, why would I take away the hope that they're going to turn up and see Celtic beat Real Madrid? He said, why would I do that? He said, no, I want them to believe. I want them to go to work with a spring in their step, thinking we're going to beat Real Madrid.
Give me goosebumps, Geo.
He said, I want them to come into the stadium believing we're going to beat Real Madrid. He said, because my players will feed off that. He says, I have to contain it in the change room, and I will. So, but for the fan base, he says, no, I go out there. And he says, hopefully for 90 minutes, we can give you a performance that you forget about life, you forget about work, you come in here, you enjoy what you see, and hopefully we can give you a result. He said, but the players will do everything they can. And he's very pro dreaming and believing, if you like, and it sounds so stupid, but actually when you listen to him, you speak about goose. I get goosebumps. I strongly dislike Celtic.
You got a hating on Geo?
Yeah. No, not yet. Bloody hell, I'm Scottish. It needs to hit -10 before I get that heated on.
Blimey.
But yeah, that's my number one.
He'd be your number one. Who'd be your number two?
Yeah, I think I don't really know. I've quite warmed to the idea of Andre Villaboa. He's a name that gets touted a little bit because he's out of work in what he did at Chelsea, and he's done overseas and stuff at Marseille. And I think I wouldn't be against that. The sporting manager gets linked to us a lot. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Is it Amaron? Is that how you?
Yeah.
Starts with A anyway. I know that.
He's just signed a contract extension, so he's not coming.
Oh, right. Well, there you go.
Why don't you tell us? Nick, I know you've asked a lot of questions.
Yeah, what's your three?
Your Argentinian geezer. Why don't you tell us?
The Argentinian geezer?
Yeah, your geezer you was talking about on your video.
The Argentinian one? I spoke about...
It was a fella I watched your videos you going about.
It was Amarin.
That was him, was it?
Ruben Amarin, yeah. So he would have been my choice. I mean, look, mind you, West Ham don't pay release clauses for managers, do they?
Sure.
We don't do it, and there's a big one in his contract now. It's huge because what that guy's done, when he was at Braga, he was promoted after sort of 3 months of managing their reserve team. He was promoted straight away. He had about 12 games, 13 games towards the end of the season. He beat the big three in Portugal, which never happens. One of them was obviously Sporting Lisbon. They saw enough. They signed him, and the next season, I think they won the league. First time for God knows how many years. What he did was he didn't go out and go mental in the transfer market. He just delved into their youth academy. He just created a load of superstars almost overnight. He just utilised the youth. Apparently, he's a really inspirational character. He's only 37. Very, very young. But yeah, he's gone now. I mean, look, I'm still holding out hope. My number one is still Pochettino. It is. I know it may be unlikely. I just can't help but think. I don't think he's suited to the PSG. I don't think he's suited to the top jobs. I don't think he is. I think West Ham are his level. I think we are.
I think
he's he's a projects guy. I think he would. If you look at what he did at Spurs. He just makes everyone better. He made everyone better. And yes, I know ultimately he didn't win anything, but he took them quite a long way. He couldn't get much closer. And you've only got to look in terms of how much he inspires players. Now he can see a player and make him better. Look at Dele Alli before and during Pochettino, and then look what happened to Dele Alli after he left.
Yeah.
He crashed and burned. So yeah, I think we do. We need kind of an expert in polishing turds, and I think he's up there. I think he'll get the best out of the group. I think he would, and he does play a high intensity game. I think West Ham fans would love him. I think he's a charismatic guy as well. And I don't think there are going to be people say, of course he's going to want a Champions League job. That's not Declan Rice saying he wants to play in the Champions League. Every manager is going to want that, but there's only a certain amount of jobs to choose from.
Totally agree.
There's
and I don't think he's there. I don't think he is at Barcelona, Real Madrid level. I totally agree. I just don't. Bayern Munich wouldn't give it to someone like him anyway. I don't think. And I think when you're then dropping down, West Ham become very, very attractive. As long as we're not rooted to the bottom of the league, we are a big club. We're probably. I know they do the league every year, that the financial league. I'd be very surprised if West Ham were not in the top 15 richest clubs in Europe. I'd be very surprised.
Yeah. Certainly, if you go by money spent in the last year, we must be up there.
Or turnover, yeah. Or turnover, yeah. Money spent, we're third, but turnover, I'd be very surprised if we hadn't moved up from 18th or something. And once you take out PSG and all those things which he's already had, when you take out those 4 or 5 or 6 jobs that he's not getting, then West Ham come into it. They definitely do.
They do, and I know there's a story going around that he has spoken to a journalist and said he wouldn't come to West Ham because of his Tottenham connections. Well, I'm sorry, if you're gonna not go to clubs because a club has beef with Spurs, you can rule out London altogether. And he likes living in London, so that's where his wife's living at the moment, I believe. So yeah, I don't know that he would be my choice. I'm still clinging on to him. The guys that you've mentioned, though, I mean, Postecoglou, Geo, you should be a salesman. You've just sold him to me. I'm gonna have to go and do my homework on him.
Listen to his interviews about fans attending games, especially because you'll find yourself really warming to him very, very quickly.
Okay, all right, now that's good. Right, last one. Okay, what's happened now is right. We've got a new owner. We've still got Declan Rice. We've got a new owner, new billionaire owner. We've gone out. We've got ourselves a new manager. We've got Pochettino. We've got company. We've got Postecoglou.
Oh, the backroom team. This is good. Yeah.
Either or. Do you think that would be enough? Do you think there is any way that we could persuade Declan Rice to stay at that point, if that was the case? If all of a sudden we became a serious team, even if we went out and we said, right, Declan, we'll give you what you want, we're going to spend. Do you think he's done? Do you think he's finished at West Ham?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, that being the case.
Hold on, I don't agree.
So, right, go on in.
Okay, I do, but I think there's a glimmer. But here's what you'd have to do with dirty tricks. You'd have to rip up the gentleman's agreement. And you have to say, look, we're going to prove to you in the next 12 months, or, you then only got a year left and we will sell you. That's what you'd have to do. And look at what we're about to do now. And then you do that. You've got your billionaire owner.
You prove it.
We prove it. Look, watch this now. And come the end of it, if you've managed it, and then all that happens, we buy all these good players and whatever, your Pochettino, your Postecoglou, whatever, he's bought his £30 million right back and everything. We've chucked another 200 million at it. And at that point, we're now third in the Premier League or something like that, right? This is what you'd have to do.
Yeah.
And say, okay, Dec, we're going to do this again next year. He might turn around and say, okay, I'll sign 1 more year extension. You might have to do it like that. But no, I think he's decided he's off. I mean, and we're not going to do any of those things.
You never know.
Well, that'll be sort of
it would be very un-West Ham-like. But yeah, that being the case, okay, let's just assume that is the case, right? Declan Rice's his mind has been made up. He's going to go. Do you think him being not perhaps team captain, but do you think that him being club captain is necessarily a good thing for us at the minute? We know that he's inspiring by his performances on the pitch, but then you hear he's, and I know that you've got very different views to me on his interview that he did as well, where he speaks open and honest about him wanting to win trophies and stuff like that. My view is, I don't think your club captain does that when his team is loitering 1 point above the relegation zone. Personally, I don't think he should have answered the question in the way that he did. He could have just skirted over the fact. I think there's a time and a place I don't think that was it.
I don't disagree with that.
Whenever he gets a chance to flash his knickers at the Big Six, I think he does it.
I don't think that's unfair. I wouldn't push back on that massively.
So, do you think for that reason, do you think he is the right person? If we're going to sort of push on for the rest of this season and try, because something's gone desperately wrong. Declan Rice's performances are always 7s, 8s, 9s out of 10s, but how many other players in that team are given the same sort of level of performance? Not many of them. So is he a good captain for West Ham at the moment? Can he captain us to safety? Or do you think we need to have a little bit of a rethink?
I think you could do damage by stripping him of the captaincy. You might find that you have.
How much more damage can be done?
I agree with Gonzo here. You could really embarrass Declan Rice so much so that it's not a summer move; it's a January move he's after now.
Oh, you reckon?
Oh yeah, I think if you were to take the captaincy off him now, I wouldn't be surprised if he says, "Right, here's my transfer request." Then that gentleman's agreement done. I wouldn't be surprised if the captaincy is part of that gentleman's agreement. Stay one more season, you're the skipper, blah blah blah. I get where you come from, Nick. I don't disagree, by the way. I think both can be true. I don't think he should have answered that question the way he did. It was a question about Champions League. He could have just said, "I don't want to talk about that. I'm here with England." But no, he started going on and on and on. And I saw the answer whenever the clip that went around on social media didn't give you the question. It gave you the answer only. And I thought, hang on a minute, I need to see the context of this. So I watched it. I thought, oh, Declan, mate, you didn't need to answer that. It was an easy question to dodge. It wasn't, are you leaving West Ham? And then he's given that to sort of get away from answering.
He queued the journalist up as well. Earlier on in that interview, he was talking about his mates playing in the big games and stuff like that. So the journalist, he was only referring to what he'd said earlier on.
So, but the thing is, though, that then leads you on to, well, is he committed to West Ham? Well, actually, I think he is. I think both can be true, which is a stupid thing to say and to answer, but also he is still committed to West Ham. I saw that Leicester game, I went into it worried that we were going to see a 70% committed Declan Rice in case he gets injured for the World Cup. I saw 100% committed Declan Rice. He's going into tackles, he was running himself into the ground. I was not concerned whatsoever. Is he a good captain? It's difficult to tell. We're never never going to know the answer.
I think his circumstances. Do you think in the environment that he's in at the moment, do you think he can be a good captain when he and everyone else around him in that team knows that he's only here for the short term and he's not invested in West Ham?
Yeah, I think you're assuming that everybody else would look on that unfavourably. That you're not committed for years and years and years. These are modern Premier League footballers. They swap clubs, they chop and change. The managers chop and change. A year and a half is the average for a Premier League manager as well. I don't think that is frowned upon. I think there's a gentleman's agreement, by the way, in players. I think players don't. I've spoken to a couple of players, and players tend not to ask one another. You get these things like what goes to the dressing room stays in the dressing room. I think there's a little pact between players that even if there's rumours about it, you don't go into training and say, "Was that true? That thing I read about you leaving or wanting to say." They don't do that. I don't think they do because there will be 10, 15 other people in that squad who are possibly on the phone to their agents at any given time, wondering what their next move might be. So I don't think it's a dereliction of duty from Declan. I think he can motivate for the rest of the season without them thinking, he's not committed to West Ham.
Do you know when we all did our videos and we said all the news? Well, it's not really news. Declan Rice has said this, but we all knew it. I think the players would have thought that as well. I'd imagine Aaron Cresswell went, we knew that. So what? Mark Noble literally told us in Talk Sport a month ago, money doesn't matter. He's clearly had that very deep conversation with the captain of the football club at that point, which is, I don't want to sign a new deal. I want to leave eventually. I want to go win trophies. So that whole, it's not like he's handed in a transfer request. Is he flirting with the big clubs? Yeah, he is. And I don't agree with that bit. Yeah. But like I said, I don't think it makes him any less committed to West Ham. And I do think he
doesn't need to do that. He's that good. He doesn't need to flirt like that. Once Declan Rice is going to get a move, there's going to be no shortage of clubs.
No. But at the same time, we can't have it both ways, in my opinion. Just a week before, West Ham were leaking this whole, we're listening to offers for Declan Rice in the summer. So the club are very much publicly basically put him up for sale. Now Declan's almost going along with it. I don't think you can have it both ways, really. I think if we're going to sale, he's up for sale, then the player goes, oh, come get me. We can't go, hang on a minute, you're not allowed to do that. We're allowed to try and get offers for you, but you're not allowed to try and get offers for yourself. Oh, that's not how it works. I don't think we can have it both ways. And if you don't believe, those reports about Declan being, we're listening to offers, if you don't believe those reports are true, then that's okay. You can have different opinions to me with the Rice thing, but I don't think you can believe that and then get upset with Declan Rice. His comments. I don't think you can have it both ways.
No, that's a fair point. I will be because I genuinely love Declan Rice as a player. We do as football fans, we fall in love with our players, don't we? Well, a few of them, Pyatt was the last one. And I think Declan, the age group that I'm at, I saw Rio and Carrick and all that come through. He does kind of he's better than those. I think he's level for his position, for the ability that he's got and for what he does. I think he's a better player than all of them, to be quite honest. And they were all great players. But I just it's going to be a heartbreaking day when he goes. It really is. And do you think for that very reason? Like I say, there is a thin line between love and hate. Do you think the West Ham fans will forgive him ultimately when he does go?
There's other villains. So he's picked his time. Okay. Moyes is a bigger villain and the board are bigger villains at the moment. I think that's why he's doing it at this time. Well, that's okay, Declan. Not only can you leave, we understand why you're leaving because Moyes is so inept and the tactics are so crap. You know what, Declan, you're leaving. We understand why you're leaving because the board are showing no ambition and the board. It's very different to Pyatt leaving. Hold on, mate. Why are you leaving? West Ham ain't a circus anymore. We're in a new stadium. What do you want to bugger off for?
And Dimitri signed that new contract.
Yeah.
Like Markonovic, I'll have the contract. I'll have the money, thank you. And I'm going to piss off. Declan, at least Declan has said, I'm not signing it. I don't want your money. He's very low paid for what he is, Declan Rice. We don't pay him much at all compared to his talent. I would be surprised. Trying to think off the top of my head, there's probably one or two others on similar pay in that England squad right now. He's probably one of the lowest paid players.
Lowest paid, yeah.
I'd imagine Saka's probably on a similar amount due to his age and stuff. Yeah. But give it a couple of years and Saka will be up there with the rest of them too. But he's one of the lowest paid players in that England squad at the minute, probably because he hasn't accepted that contract. And the last thing I will say about the Declan Rice thing opening his gob, Jude Bellingham is also probably going to be on the move in the summer. These big clubs possibly only have one big transfer in them.
Yeah,
Declan's almost competing with Jude Bellingham for a move to one or two of these clubs. So I wouldn't be surprised. This is Declan saying, forget about him. I'm available as well. Take me kind of thing. Yeah. So while you're doing your transfer plans now, consider me as well as him. And hopefully he does go to Liverpool because that opens up the other doors for me.
Did you see the interview with Jude Bellingham in contrast to Declan Rice when he was next to Jordan Henderson?
Yeah, when he said, why you say that, and walked off. Yeah.
And he walked off. That's basically they were being interviewed after a game. It was Henderson and Bellingham. Similar sort of situation. They basically alluded to the fact that Bellingham was going to be a Liverpool player.
Well, someone just outright asked him, didn't he? They were interviewing Henderson and Bellingham was there and Henderson's giving them all the plaudits. So Jude Bellingham was smiling at this. He's naturally standing there smiling. And then somebody goes... something. What did he say? Oh, you bringing him to Anfield or something?
You're taking him to Anfield, and he just walked. He just walked off.
Bellingham said, "What do you say that for?" and walked off. And Henderson sort of laughed and walked off as well. But they both walked away. But Henderson was trying to laugh about it. But Bellingham said, "What are you saying that for?" and off he went.
Yeah,
a
little bit different.
Strong will, didn't he?
A little bit different. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. That's it from me, guys. That's the end of my little list. Kept us going for a while, wasn't it?
Enjoyed
us going for a little while.
Yeah, I like it. I really enjoyed it.
Anyway, if you want to hear more from Nick, do check out the Claret and Booze YouTube channel. A link to their channel is in the description below, and also their latest video will be on your screen in approximately 10 seconds. If you have enjoyed this episode, please do drop a like and subscribe to Hammer's Chat. Maybe not Nick, but myself and Gonzo. I'll catch you in a bit.